Hey, it's Chris from Stamp Blessings, and I'm here on a snow day to get live with you to show you about the new Smitten kit from Close to My Heart. This is their Valentine's promotion, and I'm really excited about it, and I got to play with it on my snow day. So I was planning on taking some days off to recuperate, but Northern Virginia was hit with more snow than we've seen in a long time. So lucky for me. Just before I get started, don't forget that we have a new catalog that went live, and it's a great catalog. Hey Stacy, yay, you did finally catch a live. And I'm so grateful for your tip about the planning from IKEA, that app. That's going to be what I need because I can't visualize reworking my craft room. Let me quick show you the papers in the Smitten kit. They're really pretty. If you know Close to My Heart, they do have two sides of each sheet. So what I'm kind of doing is showing you the front and then the reverse side. And of course you get those fun little zip strips across the top. And then here we go is another pattern. I really like this blue. I'll be using that shortly. And then these two fun back-to-back pages with these candy hearts. They remind me of those conversation hearts that we used to give out in school. They never tasted very good, but it was always fun checking out the different messages. So I remember those fondly. So in the workshop kit that I emailed yesterday, so if you got my newsletter, I included a workshop PDF on how to create some slimline cards, some scrapbooking layouts, and some cute treat package, which let me just jump over to that. I did make this mailbox. I used some red polka dotted paper just as my template, and I used this white. It was so easy to put together, and I just followed the instructions in that PDF. So if you got my newsletter yesterday, be sure to check out the inspiration corner. And this is really cute. The flag moves. So I love it. These would fit at least 3 or 4 Hershey Kisses. You could probably even enlarge it a little bit and get some of those nice hazelnut chocolates in or something else. But let's see. The base measures 1.5 inches by 3. So really super cute and easy to make. But maybe we'll do that on another day. But I just wanted to show you that's in those instructions. So I don't know if you've jumped on the Slimline bandwagon or not. A Slimline from Close to My Heart measures 3.5 by 8.5. So you can either buy the card bases or you can make your own and then just use a regular envelope from the business store. And I went ahead and made up one of their cards just as it was in the instructions. But some of you I know are not Slimline fans. So I want to show you today how you can turn this Slimline design into an A2 card. And it's super easy. So let's put this one aside and we'll go ahead, and I've pre-cut and pre-stamped some of the images. I'm going to be working with the fan again today and this cute little bee. There is, in case you haven't seen the set, a nice sewing machine, and it says, "I'm so glad we're friends." And then this really cute koala with a little Be Mine balloon. So these are nice for not only Valentine's Day, but really anytime. You can use them as a pick-me-up or a, "Hey friend, I'm thinking of you," or you could even turn it into a birthday card. So I've prepped, as I said, some of the pieces, and I went ahead and cut those. So basically what I did is I went ahead and cut from the pink pattern paper one piece that is, let's measure that real quick to give you the exact measurements, 4 by 3/4. And the second piece is 2 by 4. So they were actually one piece. They were left over from this 3-inch piece, and I just cut them like that. So 1 inch and 2 inches, so super easy. And then this is a 1/2 inch by 4. And then these 2 yellow pieces are a little bit longer. They're going to go the full width of the card, so they are actually 4 1/4. And this one measures 3/4, and then this one is just a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch, and that's just because I didn't measure it very carefully, but you could easily do that. So let's go ahead and get started with this card. And I did bring up some glue, so I'm going to go ahead and just start to, I like to use tape or glue, but I'm down to my last tape runner, and so I'm just trying to get a little bit better with using glue. So we'll see how quickly that goes. And again, this is 4 inches, so I'm leaving just a little bit of a border. I'm kind of eyeballing it, and the glue lets me move it just a second while I'm doing that. I'll go ahead and, whoops, sorry about that. I use a block to hold it in place while I do my second piece. Now before I get too far along, I do want to prep the middle of my card where that fan is going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and sponge down some of the yellow. And in this one, close to my heart, is using lemonade. If you're not sure about the colors, each time Close to My Heart creates a paper packet, they have their featured colors. So on the back of that zip strip is the colors that they use. So here we've used ballerina, capri, charcoal, flamingo, lemonade, nectarine, raspberry, toffee, and white daisy. So you can grab any of those inks and you'll know that they're going to work. I also happen to have the mustard seed distress oxide, which we carry, and that's what I ended up using here, and it was the perfect match. But I'll show you that you can really use either or. All right, so I'm going to set that down and let this dry. And I did go ahead and I stamped my fan, and I just added a little Copic coloring to that. And I'll go ahead and I fussy cut. Now this set does not have a matching thin cut, but that's okay. You can see as I'm cutting this really loosely and quick, I like to leave just a little bit of a white margin. When I first started fussy cutting, I would cut right on the line, and then I would take a black marker and just kind of go around the edge to kind of finish it off, which is also a good way to do that. Hi, Cindy, I'm so glad you were able to pop in. Happy New Year to everybody who is tuning in. I'm home on this snow day here in Northern Virginia, so that allowed me to pop back online, and I'm excited because I've missed you guys since this summer. All right. I used to have my Motivation Mondays every week, but those have kind of gone to the wayside. But I hope this year I can get a little bit more active and come back on in between, maybe on a Saturday. All right, so you can see how quickly I fussy cut that. And what that's going to let me do is kind of eyeball where I want my shading to go. So it is going to be a little bit tight, but that's okay, where it's going to work out perfect. So again, you can use either the lemonade or the distress oxides, and I have these Tim Holtz sponges, and I'll just show you how easy that works. And so again, this design is in the email that I sent out yesterday, my newsletter. So if you get my newsletter, it's a free thing that I offer, and these instructions are in there for free for you to download and use. So even if you didn't happen to buy this kit, I'm sure that you could use it for a lot of different things. So there I just got some lemonade down, and then afterwards I'll go ahead and stamp in those little extra hearts. But again, I want to just kind of lay down my fan to figure out where that goes. And I'll be adding on the yellow strip. And by stopping and kind of getting an idea of where everything is going to go, I was able to make sure I had enough room, because I'm creating an A2 card from scratch here, and just kind of showing you how easy that is to do. You might have a slimline pattern, and then you can go ahead. So that's going to look really good. I'm going to glue that down in just a minute, but I do want to stamp the sentiment. And I could use I'm Your Biggest Fan or Blowing Kisses. I think I'll go ahead and do I'm Your Biggest Fan. And I have my Intense ink, which I had stamped that in. Intense ink from Close to My Heart lets you use both Copic markers and watercolors. So it's a nice ink to have. I always suggest, if you're going to order it, order it with a refill inker right away, because you want it to be nice and juicy when you use it. All right, so that came out great. And while I'm here, I'm gonna just go ahead and quickly get out this little tiny heart. I do like this little heart splatter, and I've used that on another card. Make sure that I change my ink and don't use this black by accident. And I think I got a little black corner. I'm bad about not wiping my edges on my blocks, and that's something, learn from my mistake. So when you do these here, you want to do them in odd numbers. That's just one of those kind of rules of the paper crafting trade. So I got 5 little hearts, very cute. And then I can quickly, you can see how quick this card came together. I can quickly go ahead now and finish assembling this. And I'm going to go ahead and lay down this yellow lemonade. So then I'm going to put them side by side, and you can tell me, which do you prefer, the Slimline, or do you stick with the A2? And again, I'm just using a little glue, trying not to be too heavy-handed. I don't know about you, but when I do use glue, sometimes I feel like the card can get quite stiff. So, and then I have just this little strip, which is also from the pattern paper, and it adds a nice pop of color. It's hard to see, but on this fan, I made those little buttons blue, and they match that perfectly. I could either pop this up, I could have stamped it directly on my paper, but then I would have had to worry about bleeding through with the Copics. But if you use colored pencil, it wouldn't be bad. Or I can just do it like that. So there you go. I'm going to put that aside and let it dry for just a minute under my block here, and then we'll compare those side by side. So if you're just tuning in, I'm delighted that you're here. I'm taking the Slimline patterns that are part of the Smitten workshop, and I'm turning them into A2 cards. So for my next card, I'm using, this one happened to use stickers, and it's got like the chick on it, but I'm going to use the bumblebee, and that'll show you how you can take a card pattern and just tweak it a little bit to make it your own. So I've cut these strips already, and this one, just before I get started, is 1 inch by 4 1/4. So that's going to actually go right across the entire top. And in the sample card, they had just a little bit of a white border, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then down here, I have that, it's hard to pick which side. That's the problem with close to my heart paper. A lot of times I like both sides of the paper. So then I have to really choose. So now I'm going to come in, and again, this one before I glue it down was 2 inches by 4 1/4. And I basically took the Slimline card directions and then just tweak them. Now for this card, I'm going to use the bumblebee. So just like on the last one, I wanted to make sure I had enough room. So I'm going to kind of eyeball that to see where he fits in. And I'm going to actually end up covering a little bit of that blue paper, but that's okay. I want to make sure, because this is two-tone paper, that I put the glue on the right side. And I am showing the darker side of the lemonade. I'll come down here. What I like about this grid paper is it makes it easier to line up my paper strips. Great. So the last time I sponged on the lemonade, and this time I'm going to go ahead and sponge on some of this Distress Oxide. It's the mustard seed. And when you look at that, it looks really kind of spotted and really unattractive, but it comes on quite nice. So, and I'm not sure exactly where I want it because I'm making up this card design a little bit as I go. I'm just going to sponge it in the middle, and that'll be the background for the bee. To color him, I think that I'm going to go ahead and watercolor him. So I did bring up a craft mat where I can just go ahead and put down my ink like that. I could also do that with the lemonade ink. I could just go ahead and dab it on here. but I went ahead, since I'm using the Distress ink, I'll go ahead with that. And for my bee, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of water and some of that Distress Oxide, and I use my Intense Black ink, and that allows me to use Copic markers and watercolor, so I really like that. Now this brush is a little bit wet, so I'm gonna come in with this drier brush because I don't want him to get too, he got pretty wet there, my little bee. But I'm just adding a little color to him. And because I'm using the same ink as I sponged, it'll be perfect. I'd like to go ahead and give some raspberry, I think, to the flower. So I just take my raspberry ink pad, touch it, and then go ahead and add a little color to that flower there. So, do you have that too, where you have one water brush that tends to be really, really wet, and then there's others that are just really stubborn and don't give you a lot of color? That invariably happens to me, so I'm always popping between the two. If you're just tuning in, I'm just really delighted that you're here. I haven't done a live video in a long time. Used to come in every Monday, but it looks like Friday's a good day, especially on a snowy Friday. So I'm gonna just quickly cut out my bee. I'm not taking a lot of time. So if I were not on camera, maybe I would be a little bit more careful. But as long as I don't cut off one of these petals or his antennas, I should be okay. I could also just stamp directly to my card. And as long as I was not using any kind of liquid that would go through the card, then I would be okay. So if you were going to use colored pencil, you really wouldn't. You could just stamp directly to your card base. But because I'm not sure if I'm going to bleed through, I wanted to fussy cut him. And again, you can see how quick I'm doing it. I'm not on the lines, I'm just kind of leaving a border. That allows me to go back and trim up if I think I have to. I like to cut off those extra chunks. That's why I tell my kindergartners, try and get rid of that excess that gets in your way. And I'm not going to get too fussy between his legs. And I managed to get it without chopping off that stem, which is really good. So I'm just kind of taking the card design that Close to My Heart made for their Slimline cards and then turning them into A2 cards, because I know some people really aren't that big of a fan of the A2. So this is really cute. It's coming along. I'm kind of making it up as I go. I want this sentiment, will you be mine? And I'll stamp that in black. This time I'm going to remember to wipe the corners of my block so that I don't get ink in the wrong spot. Yep, that whole edge there was black. And let's see, I want to get the bee there. I'll put the sentiment there. Hold it for just a second. And I want to get some little hearts back in there. I used this little heart before with the yellow. It's so tiny, it's easy to lose track of. So that's one thing, the tiny, tiny stamps. Try and keep track of those. Maybe if I would use a smaller block, that would be okay. Because I used the raspberry on that flower, I'm going to use it on here. And I'm just going to do 3 random hearts to stay odd numbers. And there you go. That is how quick that card came. So I basically took a Slimline design, and I sent those out for free yesterday. It's for this card kit, the Smitten workshop, but you could use it for really anything because they're just such cute. So there you have it. Now, in Close to My Hearts, they took a white pen and did some white stitching, and I think I could finish that off, or maybe a black. I did a black fake stitching here on my little candy tree, and that looks really, really nice. The directions for these are also in my email from yesterday, so if you look in the inspiration section. But let's go ahead and take a look at the first card that I made. Here we have the Slimline original design, followed up by the A2. So you can see that the card design works really well for either size card. I love it. And I didn't make the slimline version of this, but I definitely want to go add some black detail because I feel like this is kind of getting lost. Or I might have a fun little stamp that gives me like a little border. And I do have some close to my heart edge stamps that I might go check out. So check for my blog and see how I end up finishing this card. Well, let me know. What's your favorite? Are you a slimline fan or do you like to stick with the A2s? Either way, I hope you check out this Smitten workshop from Close to My Heart. And thanks for tuning in today. Have a great weekend and, of course, Happy New Year. Bye.